What's up guys, Aries here, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 things I wish I knew before I started playing Wolcen, Lords of Mayham. Okay guys, tip number 1. First thing you want to do before you even start playing the game is adjust the graphical settings. Because Wolcen is still newish and unoptimized, I would recommend messing with the graphic settings. Now if you go down here to the little gear icon, click settings, and then just kind of copy what I have here. Some of the main points I want to hit on is make sure it says display mode full screen. Windowed full screen mode or borderless window doesn't really work like you think it does, not in the traditional sense of games. I think that's something they still need to correct. Resolution, based on what you have, what you need. I personally turn VSync off. I don't enable a frames per second limit. I don't show the FPS for myself. I recommend turning off anti-aliasing, turn sharpening and chromatic to 0, uncheck mark these 3, so no motion blur, no lens flare, none of that. Over here you can have these settings higher, but as you'll see here in a minute, the gameplay is not really affected by putting them on low, but it does help the engine and everything to kind of run the graphics a little bit more smooth. Once that's done, hit apply, restart your game. I will warn you a couple times as I've messed with the settings and I've hit apply, the entire game has crashed, so that being said, do be mindful that it is prone to crashes. And as you'll see here, even though I made no changes to my settings at all, hitting apply still prompts me to restart the game. So we're going to just hit OK. Obviously I didn't make any changes, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, once that's done, you're ready for tip number 2. Okay guys, tip number 2. So when you beat the game and you're in the post-game section, and you're kind of going through your productivity and building up things, one thing I do want to go over is the difference between the mandates board, the expeditions map, and then kind of some of the tweaks in there. So the mandates board is really what I started with when I first hit the end game and I was trying to complete some of these things. So mandates, like it says, are very simple missions achieved in exchange of a reward. So every time a turn passes, you get so much productivity, and then based on a bonus of how fast you complete such task. So right now I need 40 productivity to complete this task, 300 for this one, and 1,000 for this one. So if I did a mandate, that counts as 1 turn. Expeditions, on the other hand, whether you're doing adept or veteran, when you complete the section of the dungeon and you kill the boss, you have 2 portals. One goes back to Stormfell, which is here, and that ends the expedition, and each round only counts as 1 turn. You also can go on to the next level. There's a max of 3 levels per expedition. Completing all 3 counts as 3 turns and gives you a higher bonus multiplier towards completing your projects. Another thing I want to go over in here is that Adept is a good way to kind of get a feel for something that's currently your level, whereas Veteran scales up. So kind of consider it like this. If you want to equate it to something Diablo 3 related, Adept is like doing a regular rift, Veteran's like pushing greater rifts. So the higher up the skill chain, the harder the content becomes, but the better the rewards. Okay? One thing I do want to note, because I made this mistake. Please, this is a very important note. Just by clicking on Veteran and accepting the quest does not push this to higher levels by completing all 3 rounds. You need to click Veteran and then click the rank that you want to do. I have done hundreds of expeditions and kept wondering why level 43 was the highest I could push. So as you see, when you click on Veteran, it doesn't automatically select the one. Click on Veteran and then click this. Once it's blue, then you're good to go. You'll notice that the higher level you go, the more magic find, productivity, and the enemy level all scales up. So right now, if I were to take the level 46 Veteran expedition and complete all 3 levels of it, I would then get the next tier, whether it be 49 or whatnot. That is how you progress your expedition rankings. Tip number 3. Did you know that not only does a skills level equal how many modifiers you unlock and have, but it also equals the amount of damage it has? Just like anything else in any other game, as a skill levels up, it does more damage. This is something that wasn't inherently obvious to me right from the beginning, and something I noticed as I started playing the game more. Not that it matters too much, because the skills will level up the more you use them. Okay, tip number 3. I'm going to go over some keys that I actually find to be really useful, and if you're not really familiar with ARPGs, can be very functional as well. So when you loot stuff on the ground, you can mouse over it and it'll appear what it is, the item name, or if you hold down Alt, it'll expose everything that's currently on the screen. So if you just run around holding Alt, you can actually see constantly what you want to pick up and click and go right to that item. T is teleport. Anytime other than if you're in an expedition, you can teleport back to town. Okay, and then you get a little waypoint. So you can come back here, sell items, go back through the portal, and back to the location you were at. If you're in the campaign section of the game and you press M on the keyboard, you can access all the different waypoints on the map and teleport to them instantly. The next one's a common one people don't know. Pushing B actually brings up your cosmetic window. So Wolcen has a pretty good transmog system in the game, I find. So not only can you change the look and appearance of any piece of armor, ooh, that Spider-Man look, but you can also change what colors they are from the dyes that you unlock as you're looting throughout the game. So as you can see, we have vastly different colors. We're going to make ourselves now the Unicorn Warrior. Hot pink throughout. And all you have to do, it does cost you gold down at the bottom, but all you have to do is click on the different pieces that you want to change. Remember, you have dyes and skins to switch between. You can unlock skins for even class roles that you're not typically playing as. Could go naked on the items as well. You can also click this button down here to hide the interface if you want to take some really nice screenshots and selfies with your character. I always recommend it. Now, weapons are limited to the weapon class that it is for the transmogs, but again, you can still, just like any other piece, you can change it. The only thing that I find to be a little bit misfortunate is that weapons can't be dyed, so you can't have like change the glow of the weapon and whatnot. That's based on the type of nature the weapon is and what type of damage it deals. But other than that, it is still nice to be able to transmog different weapons, different items, so you can kind of look and feel badass. Bat Demon Dragon Lord, all black and red. So you can really get creative on whatever you want to do, however you want to design your character. It does cost a bit of gold, but again, there's so many ways to earn gold in this game, it doesn't really matter. So then you just hit accept, you can hide the interface, and your character's instantly changed over. So if we zoom in on him, you can see he's running around. Another little micro tip here that I wanted to cover about skills. If you want to level up a skill but you don't necessarily want to use it actively, or it's too low level to be used practically in your current meta, you can put it on your action bar here, push S, grab a skill, put it down on the bar, and it will level up, even if it's one that you're not allowed to use based on the current weapon you have selected. So a good way to level up skills for other builds is doing that. That brings me kind of to tip 4 here. So ultimately, in a lot of ARPGs, you select your class, you select your meta, and you build from there. Wolcen's very different in that every character theoretically can actually be any build, just based on what you change for your gear, your skills, and your perk points. Other than that, every class can really do everything. So that being said, my suggestion, if you're a new player to Wolcen, take one character, level it up as high as you can, try to get it all the way to 90 if you can, and then play around with different builds. You are going to, I promise, have plenty of primordial affinity and plenty of gold to do this. So tweak it around. If you see, some spells that you want to try or some skills that you want to try out, do it. Build around it. And then if you don't like it, just reset it. My best suggestion for that, though, is wait until the end game to do that, because at that point you really will start having an abundance of the currencies needed in order to do those kind of builds. Another couple of quick things I want to go over. If you push C on the keyboard, inside of this menu, your character menu, is where you do reset your attributes, which are these items listed here, and you can reset your passives for primordial affinity here. So if you want to go to your Gates of Fate, where your passives are, this is where it is. If you want to reset this tree, it's actually hitting C and clicking this button here, pending you having enough primordial affinity to do so. But again, you will get plenty of that in the end game. Believe me, I've reset my build probably 15 times. You get plenty of it, you get enough of it, it's not a big deal. In early game, you do have a challenge with trying to reset it, so be somewhat careful. Next thing I want to go over is the attributes and the attribute tree, because some people were a little confused by this, and I just kind of wanted to explain this a little further. So you can spread your points evenly based on how you feel like your build needs. Usually for my build that I've been running, I've been dumping mostly into ferocity due to the fact that that critical strike chance is great. Critical is king right now in Wolcen, as far as everybody's pretty much consensusly saying. That being said, you will see a little affix here. These reflect to your bonus damages down here. So if you look, your percent is actually higher from your primary stat than it would be for your secondary stat. The amount of damage you receive is equal to a certain percentage. I'm going to tell people, I realize that hybrid builds are amazing. I realize they are kind of the funnest part about Wolcen, being able to experiment with having a sword in one hand and a catalyst in the second hand, being able to use melee skills while still casting magic. It's great, but you don't want to spread your attribute points the same way that you would on a hybrid build. You can't think of these purely on base numbers as ferocity is for melee, and agility is for rangers, and wisdom is for spellcasters. It just doesn't work the same in Wolcen. If you wind up spreading your points too thin, you're actually going to be gimping the bonus damage that you have here. You really want to pick 1 to 2, a primary and a secondary stat, and you really want to focus on those. Now the rest of these will fill up from gear. I've put no points in agility at all, but just based on the gear I have gotten a lot of stat points from that. So don't think those things won't come, but you do want to stick to what you determine to be your primary and secondary attribute. And that's it for you. Those are some of the things I wish I knew in Wolcen before I started playing. Now again, the last thing I will say is please have fun. I realize the game is a little broken, has a lot of bugs, and they're working on things. But Wolcen is a blast, and there's some awesome, refreshing mechanics in this that I hope they continue to improve on. I hope they add more endgame content, and I hope they fix, obviously, most of the bugs. We are going to be doing some build guides for Wolcen, as well as build guides coming up for other ARPGs, so look out on the channel for more of that. I'm Aries, you guys have been wonderful. Look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks again, and have a wonderful evening.